アメリカではレストランでチップを払うのは当たり前。でも最近はそのチップ文化がおかしくなってきています。コーヒーを受け取るだけ、アイスを買うだけでもチップお願いします、お金を払う場面すべてで請求されるような時代になってきました。
Don't get me wrong, I knew tipping in the US was a completely different world. Didn't realize it was this bad. I'm in the airport and I just went to get an empanada. So I literally walked up to the glass cabinet, pointed at the one I wanted, and then she flipped around the tip screen. A 10% tip for what? For putting the empanada in a bag. That was crazy. Get it? It's good service, whatever, but like where it's literally just you go pick up food and then you go. No entiendo. Esto es un...
For what? I'll put this out here now so I stay accountable to this, but in 2024, I am no longer unnecessarily tipping. Before you start thinking I'm stingy or something, for service, I will definitely pay 20 to 25% on all of it. Restaurants, coffee, beauty services like haircuts and things like that. But the tablet tipping culture has gotten so out of control to the point where I now walk into a retail store and get a greeting card, like pick one out myself, go up to the register and check out, and there is a 20% suggestion waiting for me. I've heard of the tablets asking for tips at self-serve yogurt stations. Of course, in this country, we also have a trickle-down effect problem where businesses are not taking care of their employees appropriately. So therefore, the burden then falls on the consumer to support those employees' wages, which is not okay. So like I said, in the case of service industry jobs, I am more than happy to tip for my coffee being made, things like that. But like retail stores where no one is really helping you, like any retail, not just clothing and stuff, but I've seen it at alcohol stores, farmers market stands, individual little stalls, basically where the tip of 20% would suggest 20% of the cost of goods. Telling myself the people pleaser in this because every time that tablet gets flipped on me, I get such pressure. We will be strong in 2024.
I don't believe in tipping, and here's why. The other day I went to Shake Shack, placed my order on an iPad. I got absolutely no service, yet on the iPad, I got asked if I wanted to tip. And they had the audacity to start at 15, 18, or 20%. Or how about this one? I went to a bar, I bought a drink, and in my receipt has a tipping option at the bottom. But they sneakily put in a service charge right above the tipping option. So whether I want to or not, I have to tip either way. Why are they asking me to tip twice? And then there's Starbucks. So I ordered my drink, which is already like $5, and then they have the audacity to ask me to tip as well. As someone who's worked in the hospitality industry for over 5 years, I strongly believe that tipping is correlated with the service that you offer. If you're already getting paid and it's your job to take an order and hand over a coffee, why do you have to ask for a tip? I'm not against tipping in general. I appreciate when somebody goes out of their way to ask me how my meal was, and I reward that with a tip to thank them. But when I get asked for money and I get nothing in return, is that really on me?
So Americans are starting to tip less. A recent Wall Street Journal survey found that Americans were starting to push back on tip prompts for basic transactions and service charges, and overall were just very frustrated with tipping culture, which has always been around in America, at least in the recent history, but has really exploded in the past couple of years, kind of with the rise of those tip screens, etc. And tipping has been around in American culture for quite a while, but in the past couple of years, it has definitely exploded with the proliferation of the tipping screens, just kind of coming out of COVID. And the survey revealed that in response, Americans are starting to have higher standards, to warrant tipping, using cash to avoid the tip screens, or simply tipping less or not at all. And this isn't just about saving money, though I think that is a factor during times of economic uncertainty. I think there is also kind of this psychology piece at play where I think a lot of consumers believe that the traditional boundaries of what deserves a tip has been overextended to transactions that previously didn't include tipping. And a really good example of this is those self-service kiosks where you kind of go and scan the items and then ask for a tip. And understandably, that feels pretty frustrating and annoying that you have to deal with that. And, you know, tipping has normally been guided by widely understood, if not unwritten, rules. And as these norms have become violated on the tipping end of things, you know, tipping has kind of been inserted in places where it wasn't inserted before, people are understandably getting frustrated by that, one. And two, they're also just getting exhausted by having to navigate all these different social expectations that are just rapidly changing around tipping. So that's leading to people to tip less or not at all. And I was saying before, economic pressure definitely plays a role here, but I think it's a little bit more nuanced than just cutting costs. So yes, I think there might be some consumers that are foregoing the tip just to save a couple bucks here and there, but I think we're also seeing a fundamental shift in consumption patterns. So people are eating out less, cooking home at more, etc. It's also really important to point out that tipping has partly been about social signaling and power relationships. And as the power balance shifts between service providers and consumers through technology and changing economic conditions, tipping behaviors will adjust accordingly.
I am so over tipping. It's gone too far. And so here's my new perspective, my new strategy when it comes to tipping. Number one, I am not tipping anywhere where they ask me to tip before I experience the service. For example, I went and got a $9 smoothie the other day, and right when I was like ordering my smoothie, I was like, oh, I'll get the breakfast smoothie. Then they're like, okay, it's just gonna ask you a few questions. The answer is no. One, y'all haven't made my smoothie. Two, I haven't tasted my smoothie. Three, I don't even know if I'm gonna like this smoothie yet. Why am I tipping? Like, I'm not tipping. Also, it's a smoothie. It's not like a sit-down restaurant. Like, what are we doing? There's a lot of places that make sense to tip, like restaurants. You experience the food, you experience the service, you're sitting down, you're being served. Of course you leave a tip there. But again, that tip is based off the experience, okay? Same thing, nail salons. You get your nails done, you pay and you tip based off the service, okay? I'm not tipping preemptively. So that goes for coffee shops where they turn it around, ask you questions, ice cream shops, anywhere like that. Ice cream shops alone is just a no for me. You scooped my ice cream for 15 seconds and put it in a cup. Like, no. You guys are paid hourly, like hourly rates. If they're not enough, talk to your employer. But why is that burden being put on the consumers? I will never understand. As a business owner, imagine if every single time you guys bought a planner from my site, it was like, oh, just leave a tip. Leave a tip for what? We hand make all your planners and I'm still like, leave a tip for what? No.
The tipping culture in the US is actually on a very different level. So if you're planning to travel here, this is something really important you need to take into consideration, because tipping here is not just a voluntary act. It is actually considered as mandatory in a lot of places where service is being provided. It can come out as offensive or rude if you do not pay the minimum tipping amount, which is about 15%. But to put this into perspective, let me show you something. So I just had breakfast somewhere and the cost for the breakfast was $60. And then there was the sales tax, which is $5.85. And then there was kitchen appreciation fee, which I have no idea what this is about. But then suggested tip minimum was 20%, 22%, and 25%. And this is actually not very common in a lot of places, including where I come from, which is Zanzibar in Tanzania, where tipping is voluntary and you pay based on how much you enjoyed the service and with no fixed amount. I ended up paying $85, which was okay for me, but this could not be the case for every single person. So it really brings me to the conclusion on the reason why American tourists tend to tip more when they travel abroad, because they continue the tipping culture that they're used to back home whenever they travel. So I wanted to ask you a question on what do you think about this? Do you think tipping should be voluntary or it should be mandatory? And what's the tipping culture in the place where you come from?
This is a genuine question. Do Americans really like their tipping culture? I was in LA at a flea market and I was getting some like thrift t-shirts, and the vendor asked me, would you like to tip me? And she gave me this like 15%, 20%, 25% sort of range of options on the cash machine. And I was like confused, like, am I supposed to tip the person who sells me t-shirts at a flea market? As somebody who's lived in Australia, in Asia, as well as in Europe, it's just not such a big thing, the tipping culture. It's not like I care about paying money. I would just rather have everything priced in one go into the services or whatever you are buying, so there's not so much decision fatigue. I don't know, maybe people in America really find the tipping culture like fun and a way of appreciating the service industry, but I'm just curious, do you think that way? Am I delusional for thinking that people should be paid a fair wage and everything that you're expected to pay up front?
もともとチップは、ありがとうの気持ちを表すものでした。でも今は、どこに行っても画面を回されて、断ると罪悪感、その文化が行き過ぎた結果、アメリカ人の中でも、もう限界だ、と感じる人が増えています。感謝の証だったチップが、 いつの間にか義務になっている状態です。あなたはアメリカのチップ文化をどう思いますか？コメント欄であなたの意見や感想をぜひ聞かせてください。最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。